And every year, TIA comes out with their New Year's resolutions in ICT. Those are the topics and issues that we feel industry should focus on. In 2015, there's no shortage of hurdles and challenges in our industry. And here to give us his New Year's resolutions for the ICT sector is TIA's Chief Executive Officer, Scott Belcher. And Scott, welcome to the program.
It's great to be here. This is my first time on the studio.
Well, I realize that. I think I speak on behalf of the TIA staff that we're all very excited to have you on board and leading the efforts here at the association. I want to start off really quickly before we get into the rundown here, asking you about what your initial feelings are here at TIA, but more importantly, what your priorities are here at TIA.
Well, I think 2015 is going to be just a tremendous year. There's so much going on. We'll talk about from a policy perspective, but from an organizational perspective here at TIA, we'll soon be hiring a Chief Technology Officer, and I think that person will help us as we look to the future. Where are we going to take our standards activities? Where are we going to take numbering? How should we be involved in software-defined networks and network virtualization? I mean, those things are really important. We're going to be looking at other ways to provide greater services to our members. We're going to take advantage of our solution sets and make sure that we're coordinating on our activities. And we really see a tremendous need to be out there from a policy perspective, which we'll talk about. And then finally, we've got a number of important events that are coming up where if we're not pulling the membership together, we're at least going out to selected areas to talk about the things that matter and to make sure that our members are understanding the important topics of consequence.
Scott, you talked broadly about some policy and technology issues that TIA and the industry will be facing in the coming months. Net neutrality affects not only our industry, but it also affects the average consumer. What are the two opposing views of net neutrality?
Well, net neutrality is a hugely important issue, and it goes throughout the entire chain, distribution chain. So the two views, on one side you've got organizations like TIA that are opposed to the application of monopoly-based regulations that were put in place in 1934 to the internet. So when the Telecommunications Act was passed in 1934, it was to deal with a monopoly. And so they're very onerous oversight regulations. So we're afraid that with the application of that title of the legislation, that we could encumber innovation, we could encumber investment, and we could really slow down what the internet in the United States, which is the envy of every country in the world. On the other side, you've got advocates who are afraid that that internet service providers are going to misuse their ability, the service that they have, and misuse their ability to provide services to customers through things like providing pay-to-play kinds of situations. TIA's always been opposed to that. There are situations in which you want to have paid priority, but those are for healthcare issues, those are for emergency vehicle issues. In the grand scheme of things, I think everybody's in agreement on that. And really what's happening right now is we're both punching at shadows. We're worried about the possibility of what could happen, not necessarily what will happen.
Now, Scott, TIA, as you know, just recently released a letter on behalf of our membership base, our manufacturers, the manufacturing base, against the reclassification of broadband under Title II. What's the importance of efforts like that by TIA?
Well, so TIA represents the companies that connect connectivity. I mean, so whether it's wireline, cellular, cable, and so it's very important to us because it affects the investment in infrastructure. So our fear, and we're starting to see this borne out, is that because of the uncertainty associated with whether Title II is going to be applied, if it's going to be applied, how is it going to be applied, what does it mean, that the service providers will scale back on their investment, the suppliers will have fewer orders and will scale back on their work on the infrastructure, and consumers will have less opportunity for the services that they're growing to expect and they're going to demand, and they're only going to demand more.
Scott, TIA has short-term and long-term goals to deal with the net neutrality issue. Of course, some of the short-term goals, or I guess one of the short-term goals, is a legislative fix. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. So what's likely to happen, the way that this is going to play out, Chairman Wheeler has announced that he's going to release his proposal to the FCC commissioners in early February, and they'll have a vote on February the 26th. And the expectation, and he's announced this, it's not the expectation, the chairman has announced that he will apply Title II to the internet. So then there are going to be two things that are going to happen. First, after he does that, there will likely be a lawsuit. The carriers will most likely sue the FCC, as they've done before. 10 years ago, we went through the same drill, and in the courts, we came out and the courts determined that Title II was inappropriately applied to the internet. When that happened, investment in the infrastructure increased by 70% over 4 years. That's huge. And can you imagine that if we were in these uncertain times, whether Verizon would have invested $24 billion in Fios? So you're going to have a lawsuit. Then you're also going to have, there's also a lot of talk on the Hill about a legislative fix and trying to address this in the Hill and trying to thread the needle so that the president gets what he needs and the carriers and the suppliers get what they need. And so we're going to work with our members up on the Hill, with members of the committee, with the leadership to see if we can get a legislative fix. If that doesn't work, then the next opportunity is going to be in the Telecom Act rewrite or update. And that'll be another time to try to address this. So this is not going to be a short battle, unfortunately. I thought we were closer before the president actually weighed in and said that he thought that Title II should be applied. Because at that time, Chairman Wheeler was actually going to try to thread the needle and come up with a solution that didn't apply Title II, but provided consumers the protections that they need.
So Scott, this is the time we'll do our rapid fire, if you will, rundown of your predictions in 2015. I'm going to start with the President's State of the Union address, of course. As you know, that's on Tuesday, January 20th. What do you think he's going to be talking about regarding technology?
I'm just thrilled he's going to be talking about technology. It's such a great opportunity for us. This president sees the value of technology. I think you're going to see a couple of things. One, he's going to talk about the build-out of municipal broadband, and he's made announcements to that. That's important. It's important to ensure that every citizen in the United States has access to broadband because it's transformational. He'll also talk about cybersecurity. The actions that the administration will take and actions that should be taken legislatively. We're in a time, and we've seen this recently, very recently, that the bad guys are turning to technology to figure out how they can do the stuff that they want to do. I applaud the president for elevating this issue, and it's going to be important to TIA members. I mean, there are opportunities for us to provide solutions and to help address this, so that our members can provide the services that America needs.
I want to talk next on our rundown, Scott, about the impending spectrum auctions. Of course, there are some trade groups out there that are trying to push those spectrum auctions a little further out. I think the FCC is aiming for early 2016.
Well, you got to start with the tremendous success of the AWS auction. I mean, the fact that they came in at over $45 billion tells you how important spectrum is. I mean, the analysts were thinking 10 billion, maybe 15 billion, maybe as high as 17 billion. But when you talk about 45 billion, we're in a different world. And so that has driven the real interest in the incentive auction. And I think the court's going to throw out the challenge to try to delay the application of that incentive auction. And I think the FCC will move forward in 2016.
Scott, your predictions in 2015 regarding technology in the healthcare sector.
You're going to continue to see a move to healthcare IT. You're going to continue to see a move to the use of communications to provide records, to provide services in hospitals, to enable doctors to do their job better. And it's going to continue to grow. And if you look at, I was just at the Consumer Electronics Show, just the massive explosion of wearables, and so many of them are focused around health IT. And again, it's our industry that enables that.
Now, our next subject on our rundown is a topic that I know that you have a lot of knowledge about, so we're glad we have you in the seat today, the intelligent transportation system space. What can we expect in 2015?
I think you can expect a couple things. First, you're going to see US DOT in 2016 will in 2015, will announce that it'll intend to regulate heavy-duty vehicles with a 5.9 gigahertz spectrum, which is what's called dedicated short-range communications. You're going to see more deployment of dedicated short-range or vehicle-to-vehicle communication around the country. We've seen test beds set up in Michigan, in Florida, in Texas, and in California. And in fact, TIA is partnering with the Contra Costa Metropolitan Planning Organization as it launches the nation's largest autonomous and connected vehicle testbed. And we'll be announcing, we'll be having a session on that in Concord, California on March the 30th in conjunction with that. And then I think you're going to continue to see the automobile manufacturers working with our members, working with the carriers to bring more content into the car and to bring it in more safely. I mean, it's a transformational time.
Scott, as you know, TIA and our staff here puts a lot of emphasis and importance on keeping the membership base engaged. One of the ways in which we do that is that we hold events and activities throughout the year. Can you go over some of those activities we can look forward to?
Yeah, 2015 is going to be a great year. We've got our Network of the Future, our annual meeting, which will bring our entire membership together. But we've also got a number of really important events that we're taking around the country to make sure that if our members can't come to us, we come to them. So the first event, we'll be having a healthcare tech fair on Capitol Hill. So with more than 20 companies showcasing their healthcare technology to members of Congress and their staff. This helps us when we're on the Hill in our advocacy activities and making sure that Congress understands the implications of the activities that they take. That'll be followed fairly quickly with a summit around the Internet of Things here in Washington, D.C., and then that runs into our policy summit. And the policy summit's really one of the highlights of the year for TIA. We bring in members of Congress, members of the FCC over a long weekend to meet with our members and to have the opportunity to actually engage with people on a non-business environment and to create those friendships, to create those relationships that are important and then enable us to do business in a much more effective way. This all leads up to, as I said, our annual meeting, which is TIA 2015, the Network of the Future. It's in Dallas, June 2nd through the 4th. And this is a great event. We do it in conjunction with the AT&T Suppliers Conference. We bring in policy leaders, we bring in technology leaders, we bring in innovators, small businesses, and we really bring the entire ecosystem together in one place. And it's a chance where you can go for a one-stop shop and really know what's happening in the market, what's happening with technology, who you can partner with, who you should be selling to. It's a great event, and I'm really excited about it.
Well, I would mirror that, Scott. I've been to the last few TIA conferences, and it's really grown, and it's grown into coalesce all these spaces that we have talked about today: ITS, IoT, cyber, spectrum. It's all in one place, so we're looking forward to it. We're certainly glad that you're leading the pack towards the June 2nd conference, and we're happy to have you here.
I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.